Hello and Happy New Year. You've caught me looking through the Friday feature playlist and oh, look at that, nearly 10 million views altogether.
10 million views? For watching you prattle every week for 10 minutes about nothing in particular?
Well, I like to think I do more than just prattle on.
It's ridiculous! Here's a New Year's resolution for you all. Stop watching this nonsense. It's the same every week. He doesn't deserve it.
Are you saying I get more love than I deserve? And could you reverse that and say some things don't get the love they deserve and that those things can be video games?
That is the worst segue you've ever done.
Here are 7 underappreciated video games that don't get the love they deserve. First on our list is Psychonauts, a game that, if I'm being honest, is loved pretty much the world over, is revered as one of Double Fine's greatest creations ever, has been released digitally on PS4 to great success, and has a sequel in development right now. So, what the hell is it doing on this list? Well, when Psychonauts first released on PS2 in 2005, it did so to little fanfare. It was one of those titles you'd put in your Game of the Year list to sound cultured and intelligent.
Psychonauts was my personal favourite actually. What, you haven't heard of it? Well, that's probably because I'm better than you.
Or at least that's how I imagine the conversation might have gone. Because for whatever reason, Psychonauts, despite critics trumpeting its brilliance from the thatched rooftops of pre-YouTube internet town, no one really cared. It took ages for Psychonauts to slowly grow a following and earn that most hallowed of titles, cult favourite. Psychonauts is the poster boy for cult favourites, along with another game we'll be mentioning later on. A weird and wonderful platform action adventure you played as Raz, a boy able to levitate, turn invisible and set things on fire with the power of his mind. You also spent much of the game diving into the kaleidoscopic subconscious of various characters, which, admittedly, when you write it on the back of a box, doesn't sound as punchy as shoot the guns or drive the cars. A shame, because it's great when games are a bit different. So if you've not played Psychonauts yet, go and download it on your PS4 right now. Then you can sound all smug when it comes to talking about your favourite games either down the pub or in the playground. Our second entry is Alpha Protocol, an action RPG developed by Obsidian and released on PS3 in 2010 to a mixed critical response. Alpha Protocol tried to do a lot of things. It was an action game, and a stealth game, and a spy game, and a game where you could extensively customise your weapons and your skill set, where you earned experience points and also hid behind cover, where you shotgunned or non-lethaled your way towards one of 32 different endings, and where you could choose dialogue options for near enough every NPC interaction in the game. It was insanely ambitious, sort of like Mass Effect without the aliens and the being in space and the multi-million-dollar budget. Which is maybe why it didn't get the love I think it deserves. Yeah, so the combat's a bit woolly and the graphics and animation from the Cretaceous, but there's so much depth and replayability here. Protagonist Michael Thornton might be just a bargain bin Commander Shepard, but there's still something likeable about him. Maybe that's because being in control of all the dialogue means you get to infuse Thornton with your own personality. Or that his 3 dialogue stances, professional, aggressive or suave, are the most brilliantly hilarious character personality foundations we've ever encountered in the medium. I just love the idea of playing through Alpha Protocol professionally and then deciding, right, I'm gonna start my suave playthrough now. Chances are you either loved or hated Alpha Protocol, and if you hated it then, you know, oh well, that just means there's more Alpha Protocol for the rest of us, doesn't it? Our third entry just so happens to be one of my favourite games of all time, The Legend of Dragoon. It arrived on PS1 early in 2001, right in the midst of Final Fantasy's golden age after 7 and 8 and just before 9, and had the brazen audacity to basically copy everything good about Square's genre-conquering behemoth. The main character had spiky hair and a mysterious past. His nemesis, dressed in black, had silver hair and was apparently invincible. One of your party members dies for no reason. There's a white mage, a tank, a martial arts expert, a bubbly thief called I mean Maru. I think what I liked most about The Legend of Dragoon was how it was derivative, yes, but respectfully so. I was 14 when I played this and spent lots of my spare time when I wasn't playing video games dreaming up my own. I did character sketches and plot outlines that always involved a hero from a leafy village who turned out to be the chosen one. He'd be guided by a wise old powerful mage. The bad guy would live in a volcano, you know the kind of thing I'm talking about. The Legend of Dragoon struck a chord with me because it was exactly the type of game I'd been dreaming about. It had a villain called the Black Monster, a race of ancient winged beings called Winglies. Yes, Winglies. Which I think is what my 2-year-old daughter calls butterflies. It sounds silly looking back on it, but it was such a wonderfully epic game. It spanned 4 discs, there were amazing CG movie sequences, and you had to fight the final boss about 37 times. A wonderful, wonderful game that was criminally underrated. If I could greenlight a sequel to a game that never got one, it would have to be either this or Vagrant Story, which is another underappreciated gem I could bang on about for hours, so I'm just going to shut up and get to the next entry. Which is Binary Domain, a unique third-person shooter released on PS3 back in 2012. It was a pretty cool game, you know, it was set in a future world racked by climate change, and you could shoot things and there were robots, but its most impressive feature was the squad system. Your team's trust levels would change depending on your actions, with your teammates' disposition towards you having an effect on the game's ending. Also, you could issue them voice commands. With your actual voice. Trying to get your team to understand what you were saying was half the fun, and to be honest, most of the reason I really like Binary Domain. Shouting through the headset at Kane, a French combat android,
Je suis désolé, monsieur, I could not get here any faster.
As he repeatedly misinterprets my despairing cries of shoot them and help me as shoot me and help them, will always be one of my PS3 highlights. Our 5th entry, Deadly Premonition, holds an actual Guinness World Record for most critically polarising survival horror game. And as soon as you play, it's easy to see why. You control FBI agent York, a quirky individual sent to a rural town to investigate the murder of a young woman. Quirky because he's got an imaginary friend called Zach and uses coffee to solve cases. And I don't mean he drinks coffee to keep himself awake, well he does, but I'll get to that in a bit. What I mean is, he actually talks to his coffee. It's all very weird and Twin Peakish, with gameplay that takes mundane tasks like shaving and buying petrol for your car and makes them vitally important. In Deadly Premonition, you spend less time killing supernatural undead creeps, although you still do that, than you do looking after the well-being of York himself. You need to keep him clean and fed because you get fined for wearing dirty clothes, and if he gets hungry, he starts to lose health. You need to put him to bed on time or he starts getting sleepy. Basically, Deadly Premonition is a survival horror parent simulator. Everything has to be done to a strict routine. Shops are only open during certain hours, NPCs you need to speak to will only be available at certain times. You have to maintain your car, wash your suit, drive properly and use your indicators when you turn. It's all very methodical and precise, shot through with a haunting weirdness and constant sense of unease. And personally, I think it's absolutely genius. If you haven't yet played Deadly Premonition, then please give it a go. Because you'll get a very strong reaction either way. Hopefully, you'll join me in thinking it's a misunderstood masterpiece. Our 6th entry is Parasite Eve, an awesome JRPG the team at Square somehow made in between making Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy VIII. Produced by industry legend Hironobu Sakaguchi, with art by Tetsuya Nomura and music from Yoko Shimomura, yes, the same Yoko Shimomura who scored Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy XV, Parasite Eve is set in Manhattan, which interestingly enough was originally considered as the setting for Final Fantasy VII until the team plumped for the now iconic city of Midgar. If you think that makes Parasite Eve all boring and real-worldy, then you only need to check out the opening cinematic sequence to know that's absolutely not the case. Yes, that is an opera house full of people spontaneously combusting. And remember, this game is nearly 20 years old now. These visuals were breathtaking at the time. Square's animation team approaching the peak of their CG powers. Parasite Eve was original, terrifying, and gorgeous, and pretty please, if it's not too much to ask, we'd really like an HD remaster on PS4. Please. It's time for our final entry. Remember at the beginning when we mentioned how Psychonauts was the poster boy for underappreciated cult favourites along with one other game? Yes, I'm pretty sure you've already guessed it, but entry number 7 is Beyond Good and Evil, the ultimate Have You Played It title, released on PS2 in 2003. As with Psychonauts, you have to look at Beyond Good and Evil's inclusion on this list through the lens of history. Yes, nowadays it's widely adored, with fans begging Ubisoft for a sequel for years, but back when it was released, most people, myself included, I admit it, ignored the game featuring a protagonist with a camera on the front cover. Where was her gun? Where were the exploding aliens? I don't want to take pictures of things. I want to blow up things. Geez, come on. And like everyone who left Beyond Good and Evil on the shelf, I missed out on an absolute gem. It wasn't until my friend at school demanded I give it a go that I finally saw the light. This was a game with a cracking story, varied gameplay that allowed for both stealth and hitting things with a stick, and a striking visual design that sucked you right into the game's sci-fi setting. And I finally realised that just because a game casts you as a photojournalist who lives in a lighthouse and has a pig for an uncle, doesn't mean it isn't brilliant. So there you have it, 7 underappreciated video games that really don't get the love they deserve. Let us know in the comments if you can think of any others. Give us a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe for more of these every Friday. Thanks for watching.